The Tybur family have maintained their reputation for centuries as what can only be called the best Eldians, which is simply put, the only Eldians who really get along with Marleyans. They've staked their name on the main continent as a reputable and respectable family of honorable Marleyans. And with the physical reveal of the Warhammer Titan in the recent episode, we've essentially moved past any possible spoilers for anime-only watchers. So I felt that this was a fitting time to explore the history of the Tybur family and the Warhammer Titan, which has presumably been their property ever since the Great Titan War, which is, of course, where we'll begin. But first, if you enjoy Attack on Titan, anime, or manga, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It would be a huge help to the growing channel. Enjoy the video. When Karl Fritz became king, and thus the owner of the founding Titan, he formulated a plan to exile the Eldians out of his own guilt for what they've historically done to the Marleyans. You know, the whole massacre, mass genocide thing, that whole deal. And for this plan, he worked with the Tybur family, who are, of course, other Eldians. Historically, there were 9 Eldian houses, 8 of which were subservient to the Fritz family, who of course carried the founding Titan. And they fought for years on end over control over the other 8 Titan powers. And though it's never explicitly confirmed, it's assumed that the Tybur family was one of them. And at this point, they were already owners of the Warhammer Titan. When they first got it and how is never explored. As part of the plan, King Fritz abandoned the main continent and moved to Paradise Island, so he could create his paradise, I guess. An island where no one knew of this terrible history and could live in peace, etc. It's all something we know pretty well by this point, so I'm not going to go really in depth into King Fritz and the walls. And so the king's absence on the main continent left the Eldian families in shambles, without the central power of the founder to guide them. And thus the Tybur family, in association with King Fritz, presented Helos, the Marleyan hero who would help to destroy the Eldian Empire. Helos was, of course, created by the Tyburs and Fritz, but he helped to guide the Marleyans into the Great Titan War and overthrow the Eldians. The Tyburs were the first to join the Marleyans in the fight, because, of course, they helped plan it, and the Marleyans obtained 7 of the 9 Titan shifters. All of that is essentially the short history of the Great Titan War, all of which was essentially orchestrated by King Fritz and the Tyburs. The Tybur family was praised and offered high nobility within the new Marleyan Empire for their actions during the war. Much higher status than the typical honorary Marleyan that we see nowadays. They lived in mansions and estates in what is close to isolation, but despite their good friendship with the Marleyans, never allowed them to use the Warhammer Titan that the family owned for any more fights throughout history. Similar to how the founding Titan was passed through the generations of the Fritz family, the Warhammer Titan was passed through the generations of the Tyburs. Perhaps the reason that they never allowed the Marleyans to use the Warhammer Titan for fights was in a way to honor King Fritz's desire of peace and their regret over the existence of Titans in general. Or it's because, at the end of the day, they are Eldians, and giving their powers to the Marleyans is just not something they want to do. And this could very well be the case, considering that in their isolation, the Tybur family was actually slowly improving the reputation of Eldians and subjects of Ymir on the main continent. I mean, I guess it's the least they could do, after betraying the rest of the Eldians with King Fritz in the Great War. And so, they've historically played the role of the middle ground, the mediator, between the Eldians and the Marleyans. Seeing as they sided with King Fritz and then sided with the Marleyans, essentially throughout history they've just allied themselves with who was in power. But they have not forgotten their Eldian origins, nor dedication to the peace that King Fritz sought for the world and the subjects of Ymir. The name of the current holder of the Warhammer Titan, Willy Tybur's sister, was never actually stated in the manga, but the anime has dubbed her as Lara Tybur in the recent transition screen we see here. I'm not sure whether we should consider this as canon, but I'll just keep going forward calling her Lara from here. The Warhammer Titan's main power is the ability to create any structure it desires from hardened Titan flesh. This primarily takes the form of weapons, ranging from close combat such as a warhammer, to ranged weapons like crossbows. But it can essentially be anything. We saw during her fight with Eren in episode 6 how Lara created dozens of spikes from the ground to stab Eren, and a huge pillar to impale him. So the hardened flesh itself can vary in flexibility and shape. The Titan can also be remotely operated, a trait we've never seen in any other Titan shifter before. This eliminates the weakness of the nape that all other Titans carry, and so even if the user is found, they're contained within the hardened crystal form that we've only seen the female Titan use before. And so the crystal is connected to the body by a long cable of this hardened flesh, And because the user can create anything out of its flesh, it can also regenerate a whole new Warhammer Titan on the cord, even if it's severed. And the crystal, as we know, is nearly impossible to pierce. Nearly impossible. Make note of that. And so the combination of remote operation and the ability to make any weapon it desires makes the Warhammer Titan what is likely the Titan Shifter best suited for combat. After beating both Reiner and Annie in hand-to-hand combat, Aaron had essentially cemented himself as the best Titan fighter up to this point. I mean, I would hope the Attack Titan would be the best, but without the element of surprise against the Warhammer Titan in this episode, as well as assistance from Mikasa, this battle between them would have probably gone a lot worse for Aaron. Aaron, from what we know, can't break the hardened crystal. Otherwise, the Islanders would have gotten Annie out of hers by now, wouldn't they? And so even if he were to try and fight the Warhammer one-on-one, even if he could beat her in a fight, he wouldn't be able to finish her off, because he couldn't get through the crystal. It would either end in a loss for Aaron, or a stalemate. And so it's really surprising that the Marleyans never used the Warhammer Titan for themselves throughout history. I mean, considering the Warhammer Titan's powers, they probably did repeatedly request for its abilities from the Tyburs. But I suppose out of respect for the Tyburs and historical precedents, they didn't go too far in trying to use it for themselves. I mean, Marleyans have shown disrespect to just about all Eldians we've seen except the Tyburs, so it's safe to assume that they're on an entirely different level than any kind of Eldian we've seen before. And so that's all for the Tyburs and the Warhammer Titan. As of Season 4 Episode 6, the battle isn't done yet, but let me tell you guys, anyone who's anime only, you should be really hyped for the next couple episodes. This battle overall is awesome, and has one of the most badass moments I've read in manga before. Definitely look forward to it. As always, this has been the Anime Culture Corner. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for future in-depth show, manga, and character analyses.